Happy today.
Happy today.
And wherever you are in the world, what is it? GM, GA, GN, because there are fans all over the globe, because this is a global community, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But welcome to the show, Proof of Work. This is episode 31 called Sextillion. And we'll get to that in a moment. We want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank my co-host, MattySats, for always sitting in with me. Thank my producer, Nick. And obviously all our sponsors, Quantum Economics, Quantum Expeditions, Deorganized Media, and Shield Folio. We should see some of those ads coming up from Nick in just a moment. Shield Folio is basically a good product to protect your seed phrases. It's basically a little seed phrase book that when you put your seed phrases in there, they are hidden to prying eyes unless viewed under UV light. There's the code. Scan it if you'd like to get a discount from the show. And then we got one more ad, and then we can get into it. Boom. Yeah, and Quantum Expeditions, I think there's a few more days if anybody's interested in getting in some, real Bitcoin mining. Go to our site, check it out. There you can invest as few as a couple hundred, and then as much as you want. Obviously, if you're a big donor, see us, see me, DM me, and there's the link. Thank you for posting that as well. And let's get into it. So Sextillion, what is Sextillion? Sextillion is literally when Bitcoin hits a Zeta Hash, that's how many calculations Bitcoin network is running per second. That is 21 zeros, y'all. So when I say Bitcoin is the most secure network in the history of human civilization, this is a computer scientific fact. Proof of work. And that's what it's all about. But yeah, we hit it. We hit it a couple times, y'all. And we're about to be in the sextillion calculations per second permanently, it looks like. I think I can pull up a hash rate chart and we can take a glance. Give me 1 second. BTC hash rate, share. There we are. And should have it up. Do you have that, Nick?
Yeah, there it is. Look at that.
There we go. So as you can see, if you look right after, I think it's July 5th, 2021, that's the Great China Migration, where Bitcoin's hash rate went to below 100 exahashes. It literally was almost, let me go back to the screen so I'm like actually using my cursor to point at the chart. Where would it go? There it is. So right in here, this is where the Great China Migration happened, and Bitcoin's network power decreased by 50%. It went from almost 180 exahashes to below 100 exahashes on July 5th, 2021. But the amazing part is since then, Bitcoin has done a 10x in power. This is the lowest it's been right here. And that was just a few days ago at a roughly 800 exahashes per second. But it's 10x since the miners have left China. And we're looking again, the power of the network is very solid. And this is a great indicator. Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, hash rate. It's one of those metrics that you need to know about, study, and it's a great indicator of what's to come. And I think as things continue to move on, man, it's going to be tighter. It's going to be harder for miners to eke out profitability as more and more come online. And so, it's just going to get harder. I think it's just going to get harder and more challenging and more difficult. But it's exciting to see.
No, you're right. You're totally right. And I think uh, more and more miners are going to have to do what Quantum Expeditions is doing, and smaller operations like Voscoin and bigger operations like Mara are doing. And we said that this would happen, is that they have to expand into energy, right? Energy production to reduce their Bitcoin overall production costs, right? And as these Bitcoin mining firms do this, they start to integrate all these different forms of energy. And that, again, drives down their energy production costs, which drives down their overall energy to Bitcoin ratio production. And that gets you more sats. And when you get more sats, that's a winning combo. So then what's going to happen is more and more of these companies are going to start experimenting with wind and geothermal and solar, etc. And again, that's the name of the game. Who can start to generate cheaper Bitcoin as the difficulties going up, because the hash rate's not stopping. So the difficulty is just going to be harder to find that block reward. And again, in another couple years, guess what? We stopped going from 3.13 to what? Oh, half of that. Ooh, 1 point something. It's, yeah. So everyone's starting to V for that power, that solution. And again, it's going to be interesting.
One thing, that you mentioned there, Gerald, and I'm just kind of stalling and stretching out here a little bit of time, but you mentioned, miners and their pivoting, kind of following, what we're doing at Quantum, going off grid and mining, and all of a sudden we've seen this narrative really kind of pick up steam and gain a lot of traction. And it isn't just small, independent, private miners like Quantum. Recently we saw Mara, one of the biggest Bitcoin mining companies in the game, come out recently, and they're taking the same approach. They're going off grid in a sense, and they're using gas, and they're tapping into natural gas to power their Bitcoin mining fleet. And then just recently, within the last 48 hours, Stone Ridge Energy, which is a part of NYDIG, right? And Stone Ridge Capital, and our friend Ross Stevens over there, NYDIG, of all people. I didn't even know they had a Stone Ridge Energy arm. So that just goes to show you like how out of it I am. But there it is. Thank you, Nick. Look at this tweet here from NYDIG. They are now going off grid.
Nice.
And they're flare mitigation. There it is right there. Flare mitigation, right? Off grid mining, NYDIG. So
and again, another theory of mine that I'm glad I see coming to fruition, where these companies are realizing, just like QE did, that you can go off grid and still mine, and it's going to do what? It's going to make you more Bitcoin and make you more money overall. And that's the best part of this equation.
And I think that even as, you have to find different, verticals or different revenue streams. And obviously, if you're a pubco and you're tapping into the grid, if you don't have a good purchase power agreement, and your electricity costs are going to continue to go up. Obviously, as a miner, power is the biggest thing that you have, that you face as a cost, right? So if you can reduce your power cost by going off grid and reducing that to, from 6 cents down to 3 cents, or maybe even 2.5 cents, wow, then you're really looking at some huge margins there. And then when you're able to extend the life of mining hardware with technology and software, and then you can overclock those machines, now you've also just increased that more. So you've cut your power costs here, you've increased this. So really, in theory, you've got a swing of almost 100%, because if you cut your cost by 50% and you extend your profitability and you extend the life of the hardware by 50%, that's like 100% swing. And that's going to add to the bottom line, really, at the end of the day. So I think we're seeing miners, we saw this whole pivot to the HPC AI play, where a lot of the big pubcos were looking for that, which is great. And if they can do that and they get that power deal and they got a steady source of income, great. But I think we're seeing this narrative now, like Mara, like the folks from NYDIG, what we're doing at Quantum, and there's other miners around the world and around the country that are doing the same thing. But we're tapping into a whole new sector, and this is really exciting because it's green, it reduces greenhouse gas emissions, it extends the life of hardware, and it makes better profits and returns for investors.
Yeah, and Dude, I'm just excited because everything we've been talking about for like a year is starting like come true, from governments adopting Bitcoin. And the big story, good, perfect segue. I just shared it. I
Are
hope Nick saw that.
you going to
Is that
21?
Samson Mao was just in Japan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and here it is. He met with a Satoshi Hamada, who is like one of the first people, in what is it, the Diet, I think it's called. Yeah, in the Japanese Diet, to be pro Bitcoin, and they're starting to be very serious. Yes, and that's the next big story. I had that up too. Is that he's going next month, or I think May or June, he's going to be heading to South Korea. So we're seeing the game theory of Bitcoin play out right before our eyes. And I think I have that article right here. Boom. And again, this is huge. This is, again, I can't state how huge this is, that Samson's in, two of the biggest markets in Asia talking about, Bitcoin nation state adoption. This is super huge.
I think the other piece of news that might rival that's probably a little bit bigger. I mean, that's big news, but obviously was Tether, SoftBank, Cantor Fitzgerald, and Jack Mallers, right? The new 21 Capital. I took a look at their deck. They put that out. You could download the PDF of their deck and just going through it, and it's rather impressive. But just some real quick takeaways on it. It seems like it could be a corporate exoskeleton for Tether's global liquidity machine to operate inside the U.S. is one take. It's like, what did someone say? Giving a cartel diplomatic immunity and then asking it to do quarterly earnings calls. So they're launching with 585 million in PIPE funding, 385 of it in convertible notes backed by Bitcoin at a 3-to-1 collateral ratio, right? So the moment BTC rips, they release collateral, unlock capital, and then buy more, right? So it's a sailor with the global stablecoin treasury. So think about this, though. Here's the thing, is that you've got Masa over there at SoftBank. They're going to kick in I'm looking here in my notes, $900 million, right? $900 million to buy Bitcoin. And that's not, that's also Bitfinex is involved in this as well, right? So when you look at this, I'm just going through my notes here again. Yeah. 900 million from SoftBank. So that's not even factored into the price of Bitcoin yet. It's like, wait a second. So I think your models are going to be destroyed here. Yeah, there's the tweet. Thank you, Nick. But yeah, so there's a lot to unpack in what 21 is going to be doing with Cantor and Masa at SoftBank and Bitfinex and Tether. This is just going to be, I think it's a whole new SPAC vehicle, and folks in the investment world are going to be taking serious note of this SPAC, of what they're doing there. Cantor stock is already ripping today. I don't know if you noticed the stock on Cantor Fitzgerald, but it seems to be pumping big time off this news as well. So it'll be interesting to see there. And they're already starting a balance sheet with like 42,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and they're going to be taking that same Michael Saylor strategy and running with it. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen here in the days and weeks to come.
Yeah. And again, you're exactly right. I mean, I was walking my dog, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I think Jim Cramer it wasn't Cramer, it was Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff had tweeted out like, oh, rates have to stay high if America wants to bounce back, because we don't make anything, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, America hasn't made stuff for like almost 50 years, bro. What are you talking about? But then as I started to ponder that thought, I was like, he's a little right, but he's a lot wrong. And the lot wrong part is like, just go back to the 80s where, America was about to run into a brick wall, and here comes mortgage-backed securities, right? I mean, that blew up the American markets into almost a huge, like 20 years of amazing prosperity, because they could take that debt and then sell it. And then again, what made it come falling down was, you know, nobody wants to point out that Michael Burry's product, it technically is what made, you know, Wall Street implode. He convinced all these big banks to let him bet against MBSs, and they're like, no way, you'll never win. And they're like, okay, we'll let you do this, right? So they actually created this, you know, debt swap instrument for Michael Burry. So technically, Michael Burry is one of the main reasons that the markets collapsed. No one wants to point that out. But we're going to do this again, and this is going to be done with Bitcoin, right? We can re-securitize our debt with Bitcoin bonds. And that's what's going to happen, y'all. Wake up. Wake the F up. El Salvador is already doing this. We are going to do it next, and people still want our money. We have to protect the dollar.
Wasn't
right?
it though? Wasn't it? Hold on
debt.
a second. Wasn't it Blythe Masters who created the credit default swap CDS? That was kind of the one that was tied with that mortgage-backed security. So I think Blythe was the one that actually created the vehicle of.
Well, he wrote up the prospectus. I mean, according to Hollywood, I could be wrong.
Blythe Masters was the gal way back in the day that created what I think was like the person behind.
Yeah, the original credit default swap. You're probably correct on that. But he's the one that allowed him to like
sure. Yeah, he was the one that took advantage of it. Sure, he saw it, but I think he was the one that
and they really didn't want to do it, right? They didn't want to write up these huge shorts against people's houses, right? It's almost unethical.
Don't fucking dance.
What's that? Yeah, don't fucking dance. Exactly. That's my favorite scene from that movie. I agree. And again, this is why Bitcoin is a better financial instrument, because Michael Saylor was saying this in his clip the other day. You know, when we're up, we're all up together, right? When we're down, we're all taking the bruises from the bears together. This isn't a Ponzi scheme. Ponzi schemes work like this, right? This is a circle. We're all in the circle. We all have a bag, and if it's down, we're all in the trenches together. And when it's up, we're all in, you know, the kingdom of heaven, flying to the moon, right? So again, it's not a Ponzi scheme. Most people have to realize you don't know what Ponzi scheme means. Go watch The Wizard of Lies, one of Robert De Niro's best movies that nobody ever talks about, but that's the one about Bernie Madoff. And dude, in first 5 minutes, you're like, everything's fake. Like he literally has to sit his son down and be like, nope, that's fake. That's fake. All the numbers, all the reports I make are fake. All the charts are fake. Everything's fake. Fake. That's a Ponzi scheme where he's like, just give me money. And there's like a scene in the movie where one of his buddies, he's asking for money for this gold scheme. And he's like, nah, something don't sound right. And I was like, you're the smartest dude out of all of his friends and family. You are the smartest dude in the universe. And that guy should win an effing award. But watch that movie. That's what a Ponzi scheme is. Everything's fake. So meme coins, yes, there's a lot of meme coins and a lot of S coins out there that are Ponzi schemes. But Bitcoin and Litecoin, they're not two of those.
Yeah, I think to put a bow on the conversation regarding 21 and Mahlers and Tether and Cantor, I think that this is going to send some shockwaves through the markets eventually, once people like realize what the hell is going on and get a little more time under the hood and looking at their deck. And again, we shared the deck. I mean, it's out there. I shared it. Bitcoin Live has shared it. So anybody and their mom with half a brain that wants to take some time and educate themselves and stop shit posting about Trump and Elon and do a little research and study Bitcoin might do themselves a little bit of a favor. Just saying, not financial advice, but a solid life suggestion.
Correct. So here's a little clip from DC. Let's see if we can get it over. Okay, perfect. Let me hit play. Oh wow, where did it go? See, I thought I had one tab of Twitter open, but I got two.
Take a look at where things stand right now. We want to talk about what's driving this, because we're back up at 96, almost 90 or 93. almost $94,000. This, of course, we're down, but 76,000 was maybe the recent
Oh, he
low.
has to point out the low, the regional low. What an
John
ass.
D'Agostino is here. He's the head of strategy at Coinbase Institutional. Tell us what's going on in terms of the coupling, decoupling. I don't really know.
I don't know shit, but I've been talking about it for years.
Then it feels uncoupled, then it feels like it's coupled up again.
Right. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be back on. So when we talk about decoupling, we're really talking about neutral to negative correlation. And more specifically, we're talking about negative correlation when markets panicking on the downside. Nobody minds correlation when it's upside correlation. So, first and foremost, got to be super careful, right? This is a relatively short-term data set, April. You don't want to assume it's going to persist. I could be making a fool of myself right now, and today it could jump to a one correlation. The other thing you want to be careful about is, even if we understood exactly the reasons, and I'll get into what we think they are, just because this occurred now, it doesn't mean if that similar set of events occurred, we'd have exactly the same behavior. So just a disclaimer, be very, very careful. And that applies to gold, that applies to any asset. So the nice thing about my position is I don't have to guess as to what traders are thinking. We're kind of the center of the crypto ecosystem. So when you called me, I made a bunch of calls. And the pools of capital that have been buying during April, sovereign wealth funds, large institutional, long-term duration pools of capital, they're looking at it basically three ways. One is, if you think about the tariff announcement April 2nd, if you believe that that's going to have a spillover effect on global trade, you believe there's going to be less global trade, then much of which is denominated in U.S. dollars, then you think there'll be lower demand for U.S. dollars, that we refer to as de-dollarization. Well, some of the ways Bitcoin is used by these large pools of capital is they buy it in their local fiat currency, they hold it, and they sell it into dollars when they need it. Well, if you think dollar is going to weaken, then you don't do that anymore. And so you're holding more Bitcoin. These large insurance pools, sovereigns, et cetera. So that's one thing, is this de-dollarization trade. The second piece is that post-COVID, Bitcoin kind of got caught up in this levered tech trade, kind of just bundled into the QQQ, bundled into NVIDIA. It's not really a tech stock, but it kind of got associated with tech stocks.
Well, was it? I always thought that the issue was that there were retail investors who were taking their winnings, in some cases, from an NVIDIA or a Apple or whatever, one of the Mag 7, and then moving it into Bitcoin. And therefore, then it was all tracking because to the extent that then they owned that other stuff too. Whenever it went down, they had to sell out of stuff. They also were selling out of Bitcoin.
During the bubbly periods in tech stocks, that's not an unfair assumption. But I'll note one thing. So for the month of April, as you would expect, gold ETF inflows were massive. I think $8.5 billion roughly from the 2nd through the 22nd. Okay. Might surprise you to learn that Bitcoin ETF flows were net negative to the tune of about 470 million. So the opposite of that was occurring. So institutions, sovereigns, patient pools of capital were piling in during April, which resulted in about a 13% increase in Bitcoin versus 10.5 for gold. And retail via the ETF were exiting. So you got to kind of ask yourself, what do the institutions know
were the
that
institutions buying Bitcoin direct? And how many of them are now buying via ETFs or other forms?
Well, hard to say. They don't, especially the sovereign wealth funds don't report.
Right, no, but you're also, I imagine, seeing the ETFs buying. Because the ETF should be buying on a
in the last couple of days.
But the ETF should be buying on a relative basis on behalf of their customer base.
Right, assuming there were inflows, right? But the last couple of days, yes, we've had inflows. But still, as of yesterday, should change today, we've had net negative ETF inflows. So, so the first reason is de-dollarization. The second reason is this tech unwinding of this big levered tech trade and Bitcoin trading on its core characteristics, which again are similar to gold. You've got scarcity, immutability, non-sovereign asset, portability. So trading the way people who believe in Bitcoin would like it to trade. The last was, to me, the most interesting, which is, I spoke to a couple of traders who said, look, if you believe these conditions, these de-dollarization conditions are going to persist, you're looking at gold, obviously, first and foremost, but maybe you missed out on that trade. You're looking at that rally and saying, I missed the boat on that. So what other assets could participate in that market panic long-term inflation hedge? When you do the work, there's a very short list of assets that mirror the characteristics of gold. Bitcoin is on that short list. In addition to the 4 characteristics I mentioned, its mining scarcity, its mining difficulty gets harder over time.
Yeah, and you can add 2 or 3 more good things about Bitcoin that you didn't even mention.
So again, it's out there, right? There's multiple nation states, right, buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and holding on to those assets, waiting till they, you know, they only have to go up a couple of percent in interest. You know, these countries aren't buying like $1,000, right? They're buying like $100 million, or the Bitcoin. It goes up 2-3%. They made a lot of money, right? They sell, right? They're using the, you know, the recycling slide. And the other interesting thing, I think I just posted it up on my Twitter feed. I think I have that over here as well, is I was doing some research this morning, just a little basic research on the Lazarus group. And I'm pretty sure, of course, give me a sec. I thought I had my bookmarks up. Yeah, here it is. You can go check it out, but almost all of the wallets, here's the link. If you could share that, Nick, I think, let me see. Share this one. There we go. Sorry, I forgot I had a tab open. You can go and check this link out. Literally, it is mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum wallets. So that's some interesting information. I scrolled through and looked at all 33 wallets that are available and have been, you know, obviously on multiple agencies' watch lists. But every single one of these wallets was a Bitcoin. It had a Bitcoin address or a 0x address. So the Lazarus group is really into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I know that much. That's as much as I garnered, because like I said, I only did like 5 or 10 minutes worth of research. But yeah, these are, let me see. Oh, okay. It didn't take you to the exact link. Oh, that stinks. But yeah, you can pull it up. You basically just put in Lazarus groups wallets. There's 33 of them. I think like 20 some were Bitcoin wallets and like 10 plus were Ethereum wallets. So what can you learn from this? Another good reason to own some Litecoin. I'm just saying. Most people are going to learn this the hard way in the next 10 years, because Bitcoin is going to become an elite network, right? At some point, right? My new theory is that the purple HODL waves on the HODL waves charts are going to start to get smaller, right? Because Michael Saylor used to be a big Apple holder, big Apple bull. Does he still hold Apple?
Hey, did you see? You saw the chart? You know where we're now, or I say we're like we're part of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin now number 4 or number 5 on total market cap, behind Nvidia, behind Microsoft, behind Apple, then gold. And really, we are not that far behind the market cap of Nvidia and Microsoft. I'm just curious, is that something that gets eclipsed by the end of the year? I think it certainly is within the cards. We could be pulling up on Apple's market cap by the end of the year if everything that we know already kind of comes to fruition, with the banking, with the lending, with strategic Bitcoin reserves, with now we've got Cantor and Jack Mallers, and it's just going to get insane, I think, as the summer progresses. I think by the end of the year, Bitcoin could be number 2 in total market cap globally. I said it.
No, I think you're correct. I think this is the summer. I think we're seeing peak gold right now, right? I think gold might get close to 4. I said the highest I would see it getting to in the next like 5 years. I think I said this in 2020, was maybe 4 to 6K, and we're getting near those numbers. We just saw peak oil, right? And this is another thing people have to realize. If we want to save America, we have to change our reserve asset. Oil really isn't the greatest asset anymore to have as your backing of the dollar, right? The petrodollar was great for many years, but now we have the Chinese, oil yuan futures, and Russia and China, India have been trading around petrodollars for some time, and this is what's creating the most damage to the dollar in the markets. you know, and we need something else to protect the dollar, right? And that's and it could be a hybrid, right? It could be, you know, a petro Bitcoin dollar. I'm sure that's what's going to happen for a little while. But we're already seeing other countries use Bitcoin and Ethereum's network to buy capital goods, right? It is a benefit, right? It's easy, right? It's quick. They're settled. Their transactions are fully settled within like 30 minutes, right? You're not waiting, like in some cases 30, 60, 90 days for payments, right? Like that's what really happens. Like if Matt had to like call me up for this huge steel order and it's like $20 million worth of steel from Japan, do you think he's going to pay me today? No. But as soon as you switch to an on-demand payment network like the Bitcoin network or the Litecoin, and people still use Ethereum, these things become instantaneous. Your settlement times, the money's there, you're not waiting. And this is why we're starting to see a flee from fiat money, right? And that's where we're starting to see, you know, Nick had the book, The Death of Money. We're starting to see the death knells of paper money.
So here's something I just want to kind of throw a wrench in this conversation, just because we can, and we're live and we're about 30 minutes into the conversation. Something that I see happening, and the evolution of adding a digital asset to be a treasury asset, and then finding ways to generate yield or passive income or anything like that, right? We've seen already, what comes to mind is, you know, Bitcoin mining company BitDeer, and how they take Ethereum and they stake that and they use that as a flywheel mechanism, and they take those gains from the Ethereum that they've staked, put that back into the company. Well, now we're seeing companies and corporations do this with Solana. DeFi Development Corporation, formerly known as Yanover, has recently added Solana to its corporate treasury. The company announced yesterday it purchased approximately 65,305 SOL tokens valued at 9.9 million, bringing its total to 317,273 SOL, worth around 48 million. So, and there was another company as well. I just saw the tweet this week. They added Solana to their balance sheet. So now, and I think this is just the canary in the coal mine, because we know that there are so many, you know, everybody and their mom practically has a pending Solana ETF, I think, right? From Van Eck to Fidelity to Jane Street to, I think Gerald Vaught is launching a Solana ETF. But I think this is also, but I think this is just foreshadowing the litany of ETFs that we will see. But now we're seeing corporations turn to adding other assets in addition to Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. And I think that's the same model. They'll take the Solana, they'll stake it, and they'll take those earnings, reinvest it, reallocate it however they want, and use that flywheel mechanism.
No, yeah, I mean, clearly, this is going to happen. We're starting to see, as before you just jumped in, I was telling Nick, we're starting to see this Bitcoin and altcoin like bull wave form, and I just pulled up the chart and you can see it. Both of these entities are literally in the sweet spot right now, and again, it's because globally, you know, from the news from Samson today to, you know, the news that, you know, Russia and China are using Bitcoin and Ethereum, to all these other stories from El Salvador, people are starting to realize they can subvert all of these other monetary systems instantly, right? And it makes it very easy to move money where you want it, when you want it. And again, having more choices, it's usually bad, but people like to gamble, right? So we are going to see this alt season extravaganza and a Bitcoin explosion in the next, you know, couple of weeks or months. But everything is shaping up for all of this capital to flow into
the crypto. Did you see the latest M2 chart?
Pull that up. I was looking at one the other day, but yeah, definitely pull that up.
Yeah, I can't at the moment, but
Okay.
but yeah, maybe Nick can pull up the recent
Let me,
M2.
I think I have
Yeah.
M2.
Oh, Nick says he can get, yeah, he can get it here.
All right.
The recent M2 chart. I mean, geez, man. If that doesn't give you a little indication as to what is going on in the markets and what's going on globally, wow, man.
Yeah, I want to look at a just at a 1 year. Let's look at a 5 year. So, I don't know if I beat Nick or Nick got me. I don't know which one. But I think I got one.
There you go.
Yeah, this is a 1 year.
Can you zoom in on just like the last month even?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Let me see if I can do that. So let's go. This is 3-1. Let's do.
I mean, just look at, yeah, even that right there just tells you. But I mean, when you really get into it,
let's do 3-1-25. Or no. Let's do. What are you doing, computer? Why won't you let me do what I want to do? What?
what's the matter?
I don't know. If it got their the way they code it is like totally weird. 25 2 -1. Yeah, so this is just from February to March, and it's gone like it's just keeps going up. And again, if we zoom out to like a 5 year or 10 year, let's look at a 10 year. Yeah, so here's 2020. The last couple years, they tried to dial it back like right in here, and literally from 2024 to like now, it's going right back up. So they're printing money, right? Now it's just a matter of time where, you know, the banks are only giving out to like the best of the best, right? They're not going to loan to any willy-nilly project that's on the books because interest rates are good, right? And when interest rates get cut and they're like, oh, now we can take on more prospective clients and people with less good credit, right?
Yeah.
But at these higher rates, you know, the banks don't want to lend it out as much. They'd rather, you know, put it in repo. And that's, we've seen the reverse of that, reverse repo. And now they're not doing that as much. So what's that usually mean? They're about to either lend it out to, you know, family offices, or their own in-house entities are going to start leverage trading it. Oh yeah, that's the one you're probably looking for, is the Bitcoin price to M2 supply.
Yep,
so
that's
yeah,
the one.
Bitcoin is clearly
that's the one, yeah.
About to go nuts. Like,
dude, that's the one right there. Yeah, dude. When I saw that, I'm like, y'all ain't even fucking ready, man.
No, well, it tried to do this, right? Like, it tried to do this like a month or so ago, right? Bitcoin was like 81K and it was like 20K candle. And then, holy shit, Wall Street was like, you know, oh crap, I bet, you know, what's his name? IBIT was like, sell. BlackRock was like hitting the sell button as fast as they could. Dump some. And then all of a sudden that 20K candle went, right?
I've said this, and I was kind of saying it tongue in cheek, jokingly a little bit at first, just because, you know, sometimes when you're on the app and we're in this community, there's a little bit of I don't want to say locker room mentality, but there's kind of a jockeying and a jostling and a back and forth, like, you know, a little bit of ribbing and people are having fun. And sometimes it's a little bit sarcastic. Right. And all that being said, I originally said it under those auspices of 200K end of May. I was like, kind of joking, but it's possible. But now more and more, oh yeah, Raoul Paul hammering about M2 and Bitcoin for months now. But more and more as we get closer, and just kind of looking at the hash, and then you look at the M2 versus Bitcoin that chart, I think everything is I'm kind of thinking that maybe I might be more serious about that call of 200K end of May. I think a lot of folks are on board that we're definitely going past 100, and some folks are of the mindset that we go past 100 once we get through this resistance here, which we're probably going to see some in this range where we're at now in the 90s. We get through 100 though, we're probably not going back. Will we reach 250 this year? Nick wants to know. I say yes, Nick. I say wholeheartedly yes. I said 200K end of May by Vegas.
Possible.
What's that?
Very possible. I did have like one more clip I wanted to share because you did bring up Mahler's earlier, and he was on with Charles V. Payne, and I'm gonna share.
Dude, Charles V. Payne has like the best suits. You ever watch Charles Payne? That guy's like a
dude,
pimp.
I love that guy.
He is a straight up pimp. I love like when he wears.
And now
he wears
also
like
a hodler now. So
he wears this red suit. Oh, he doesn't got the red suit on today. Okay. I love when he wears that red suit.
And the longer term future that you envision for Bitcoin.
Oh my gosh. This thing's going to hundreds of thousands of dollars per coin, Charles. I mean, the US government is in so much debt. The way I think about Bitcoin's price equals technology plus fiat liquidity. So it's going to go up because it's innovative tech and it's better money. But what really shoots it up at a neck-breaking pace is when our government is tens of trillions of dollars in debt and has to roll that debt over. So they got a lot of money to print and financial assets are going to soar. And Bitcoin goes up the most because it's the hardest to make more of. It's over, man. This thing's going to the moon.
So interesting, too, because it's not just the
I think
U.S.
we're over
today. Globally, these countries, these advanced nations, and all this fiat currency are going to have to spend $2 trillion on the interest alone, and they won't stop spending, Jack. They just won't stop spending money, and it's coming back to haunt them, and it's coming back to maybe people realizing fiat currency is not the place to be, huh?
Charles, this would be my message to America. Give me a second on this one. Guys, the U.S. government's got about $10 trillion over the next 2 years to roll over, refinance. That's debt. Our country's in debt. It's a huge problem. They got three options. One, they could pay it back. It's not a real option because we don't got the money. We're broke. Two, our government could come out, Charles, and say, you know what, guys, we screwed up. After World War II, we changed the way money worked. We got off the gold standard. We issued debt all over the place. We got way too cocky. And actually, all of our banks don't have your money. They're insolvent. All the airlines you fly and travel on aren't actually good businesses that should be in business. Healthcare shouldn't actually be free. We screwed up. We piled on so much debt and screwed up the younger generation, and we're in huge trouble. So we're going to have to let everything fail and reset this country. Now, they're not going to do that, are they, Charles? They have third option, which is unique to the government. They could print the money that they're missing. And when they print the money that they're missing, they're stealing from all the people that hold US dollars. And so what they'll do, they'll have to do is print dollars. And the only way to save yourself is own not dollars. And that's when you see things like the S&P 500 and gold and Bitcoin soar. And so that's what's going to happen over the next 2 years. They got to print 3 times more than they did during COVID.
I love your enthusiasm, Jack. We're going to bring you back. We really do love your enthusiasm and your message.
Okay, so hold on right there. So really quick. Okay, so they printed $6 billion during COVID? Hold on, let me just double check.
No. 6 point. I think it was like 6.7 to 7.1 trillion.
Okay, so they're gonna have to print 3 times more than that. So what's
usually?
So that's about 18 something trillion dollars.
Yeah, 18 to 21 trillion. Correct.
21. What is that? 21. There you go. There's the magic number.
Yep. And again, we're talking massive amounts of money, right?
But Gerald, you're smart. Okay, so what happens when China and all these other countries start seeing the U.S. printing all these dollars again? What's going to happen to treasuries?
Oh, well, that's again. So we kind of did discuss that a little bit. That's why we kind of start pushing Bitcoin bonds, kind of protect the dollar a little bit more. But even if China and Russia started dumping, the bonds are so juicy right now. Somebody else is buying that debt up. There's too much interest, right? Like when it's like 5 to 7%, people are like, what? You're not getting that in any other market, right? Japan, it's like, you're like negative 0.15% interest. It's like, I think it was the first time it was flat in like 20 years. In Japan, the interest rate was 0, and it almost broke their damn economy. Because they print so much yen. But the point being is all these countries are starting to figure this out, where we have to go back to a hardened system of finance, and we're all living in this digital universe, and we don't have digitally backed money. One of the most important things that not nobody points out, but very few people point out between gold and Bitcoin is gold is scarce. Bitcoin is finite. There's a huge difference, right? You can still find lots of gold. It happens all the time. Oh, we broken into this. We were digging in the backyard.
We found a new tranche. Hey.
Yeah, we found some new coins, or we are mining in, this hole in our village in Africa. Boom, we found this huge 20-pound nugget, right? That happened like Tanzania a couple years ago. They're always going to find more gold. You're never going to find more Bitcoin unless you find that seed phrase, right? You find that seed phrase, you can get to that UTXO, and it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day in the neighborhood. But you're not faking the funk, right? You cannot forge new Bitcoin. You cannot coin clip Bitcoin, right? This is my newest theory that people call me crazy. God sent us Bitcoin, right? And there's a part in the Bible, don't trust in treasures that moth and dust corrupt, right? Well, what's one of the few treasures in the whole planet that moth, dust, air, fire can't corrupt? Oh,
all right.
Bitcoin.
You're kind of going down the eisegesis ramp there in the theology world, but we'll save that for a different podcast. I don't want to get into the exegesis, eisegesis theology game. It's still too early in the morning for me. But I see what you're doing. But I like the analogy. But man, I know that some hardcore fundamentalist Calvinist is going to be like, dude, and having an aneurysm and freak out on you, and some Pentecostal person will be like, so
he'll meet Jesus and he's like, yes, I sent the corn. But yeah, I mean, again, it's the greatest invention in the history of human civilization, right? It is the next steam engine, right? It's going to wrangle all of these energy projects across the globe that waste all of this energy. That's going to stop happening as much because it's a waste of money, and if it's a waste of money, it's a waste of sats, and if it's a waste of sats, we don't do that. So everything's going to change. The whole meme, Bitcoin fixes this and Bitcoin fixes that and Bitcoin fixes this. It does, y'all. It does. One of the things I was kind of chiming in the spaces before I headed out is that there is this new geothermal that is being worked on in Oregon State University. I just had a clip. Let me see if I have it. Oh yeah, here it is. And we can just watch his clip and then wrap up for the day. But this is where it's at, right? And this is literally my neck of the woods. Lake Paulina is just about 40 minutes from me. So we're not going to watch the whole clip, but I stopped it right at a good sweet spot. And let me see, share this tab. And it's awesome. You can see, like, this is my neck of the woods, literally.
That's what left behind the massive obsidian flow. It's an easy volcanic feature to spot, but the volcano's inner plumbing has been hard to figure out.
This is one of the evidence that we have of the potential power of this volcano that we're in. And of course, that's what triggered all this interest in geothermal power, the fact that we don't have to go that far down to get to these hot temperatures.
While hot water bubbles up in the middle of the caldera next to the lakes. Just outside, on the volcano's flanks, drilling hasn't found a drop.
But what that left us was an excellent opportunity to test EGS.
Well number 5529 is that dry hole. The end of this wellhead lies 10,000 feet deep. The rock down there bakes at 600 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Will Osborne is with Alta Rock Energy. His firm partnered with the well drillers, Davenport Newberry. They are spending more than $44 million, half from taxpayers, to prove that EGS, enhanced geothermal systems, could turn this hot, dry well into a source of limitless renewable power.
The way to expand geothermal in this country is by creating our own EGS reservoirs in all that hot rock that is waiting there for us.
Since there's no hot water down below, they'll pump it down there. But there's no empty cavern waiting to be filled up. So they plan to make their own reservoirs nearly 2 miles underground by breaking the rock with high-pressure water.
We use the natural fractures in the rock. So when we inject water at high pressure, we're opening up the natural fractures in the rock and just causing those to slip a little bit. And when they slip, the irregularities in the rock will cause those cracks to remain open. We're talking about cracks that are millimeters thick in aperture, so 1 to 2, 3 millimeters, maybe that big.
They hope to create not just one, but 3 reservoirs, stacked on top of one another underground. The plan is to pump cold water down into those cracks. The earth then heats it up. They would then drill new wells off to the side to pump that now hot water back to the surface to power turbines.
The concept of EGS, though, is to create a closed cycle. You bring the hot water to the surface, extract the heat, and then put the cooled water back in.
There is likely to be one side effect of forcing so many cracks into the subterranean rocks. Lots of very small earthquakes. Most under 1 magnitude, though perhaps a few up to 3.5 or 4. Will Osborne says they're not likely to cause any damage because this area is so far from nearby towns.
In this case, we're not talking about earthquakes so much as microseismic events. Generally don't get large enough to be felt.
I think there will be some very low magnitude earthquakes, highly localized around the drilling sites. And it's very unlikely that you would actually be able to feel those earthquakes, but our instruments are sensitive enough that they would actually be able to detect them.
Ben Pauk is a geophysicist with the U.S. Geological Survey. The USGS is not a partner in the geothermal experiment, but it happens to be installing 8 brand new seismic sensors around Newberry at an opportune time.
It's a pretty high threat volcano, and the last eruption in Newberry was a little over 1,200 years ago, the Big Obsidian Flow. It's very likely that it will erupt again in the future.
With the new sensors scattered in and outside the caldera, USGS will be able to watch any volcanic activity live as it happens. It also puts them in the perfect position to pick up any tremors that may occur at the enhanced geothermal site nearby.
We will be in a better position to distinguish if the earthquakes that are occurring as a result of the injection are indeed a result of the injection, or if they're a result of magma accumulating in the magma chamber beneath the volcano.
Alta Rock had wanted to try this same geothermal experiment a few years ago in California at the Geysers. It's the largest geothermal field in the world, but the company never got a chance. Electricity producers there had already been injecting water, which caused earthquakes just large enough that people nearby complained. These days, that leads to another comparison to one of the energy industry's most controversial practices. Isn't this like fracking, where drillers fracture the rock to extract natural gas?
In hydrofracking that's done in the oil and gas industry, they actually shatter the rock. They break the rock and create new cracks, new fractures in the rock. And we just inject cold, clean groundwater. In hydrofracking, they use a mixture of chemicals.
Enhanced geothermal already produces power in Europe. At the Newberry experiment, a power plant isn't even part of the plan. Yet. If they can get hot water from a dry hole, then geothermal energy might be possible all across the country.
That's the Holy Grail. Why is it the Holy Grail? Because it's baseload power from geothermal energy. It's available 98% of the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
We're enhancing the productivity of the geology of the earth to produce hot water. The difficulty is making that reservoir. So that's what this demonstration is about.
So one of the coolest things about the lake that they were at, so there's this lake called Lake Paulina, and just make sure the video stops. Is that you can actually go to this lake right near me and just dig like a little pit, like on the edge of the lake, and the volcano is so hot you'll make your own little spring right next to the lake that's like 60 degrees, and your spring next to it, your little circle with water, will be like 120. Yeah, that's how hot those volcanoes are. So this is a huge deal, right? And let's be very clear, it's not hydrofracking like the gas industry does. They inject like tons of poisonous chemicals. This is just water because they want to use that water, right, to do things. They don't want to poison it. And it's just a heat transfer, right? So they're injecting that water down in there, and then it heats up, and then boom, it comes up, it runs a turbine, and then it cools off. But that's, when people talk about free energy, that's as free energy as you're going to get. Right. And you start hooking up some Bitcoin miners and cha-ching, 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 ching, 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 ching. That's a lot of ding dong. And that's where it's at. That's why El Salvador is kicking butt, because they are mining with like literally zero cost to their energy production, right? So every time they mine some sats, it's like almost, I wouldn't say 100% profit, but mostly profitable Satoshis. And with that, I think we are wrapping it up.
Yep.
I want to thank MattySats, the great one from Seattle. I want to thank my boy Nick, the producer. He always does an amazing job. I want to thank everyone, Deorganized Media, Quantum Expedition, Shield Folio, and thanks everyone. Have a great day, and don't forget, as MattySats always says, stay humble, stack sats. Peace out.